You'll be shocked to find out that another prominent right-winger who is down on vaccines now, tragically, regrettably, has got COVID. But coming out of that tragedy, perhaps we can learn something. So we're gonna try to together. This is Allen West, the former Texas GOP chairman, who's gonna be running against Greg Abbott in the primary for the Texas governor spot. Because Greg Abbott, who is a certifiable loony right winger, ain't crazy enough for the Republicans, so they're running Allen West. Anyway, Allen West apparently had tested positive for COVID back on Saturday and tweeted, after taking COVID and flu shots, Angela West, that's the colonel's wife, I believe, tested positive. And Colonel West himself is experiencing a low-grade fever and light body aches. Out of concern for public health, Colonel West is suspending in-person events until receiving an all-clear indication, saying that he'll still be doing virtual stuff. But don't worry, he's taking it seriously, guys. He's taking hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, obviously. Now, that is good news for him. Assuming he doesn't have a problem with having COVID, but also has malaria and worms, this is good news because they will actually treat that. So glad to see it. Understand that while his wife apparently received the vaccine, Allen West did not, or at least he's telling you that he did not. Says he's publicly stated he supports individual choice, and this is reflected in his own family. That's true. Let's also know it's reflected in his own body because he's got COVID now, and maybe he didn't have to. There are breakthrough cases, but maybe he wouldn't have to. Anyway, it's gonna escalate in just a sec, Sabrina, but I wanted to give you a chance. What do you think about this so far?
The thing is, he talks about like, oh, I took ivermectin and the hydroxychloroquine or however. But is that all you took? Surely if you got COVID, I'm sure there's probably a little something. I'm pretty sure he had some access to the Joe Rogan cocktail, if you will.
He did.
Oh yeah. So
he did.
It's just it's not fair that, you know, in that whole thread that he is omitting some very crucial information in his treatments, which can be very misleading. Some people may not read all the way through and they'll look at that and they'll be like, oh, well, it worked for him. It'll work for me too. If I get it, it'll be fine. And then, you know, they're gonna go to PetSmart or something, and they're not gonna even get like the actual human grade stuff. They're going to get what is more affordable for them, and they're going to give themselves unhealthy doses and make themselves more sick. It's gonna be great.
I'm glad that you brought up the Joe Rogan too, because he's doing the same thing. Now we're gonna talk about the monoclonal antibody treatment, but he just lists a bunch of things and says, well, you know, if I survive it, then you know, who's to say? It's a good strategy. I use it myself. I was telling Sabrina during the break that I got sick recently, but I take it seriously. So I did what you do. I went to a doctor. I took vitamin C, I took vitamin D, I took echinacea. I ate boxes of Nutty Bars every day. Who's to say which cured me of my congestion? You think it wasn't the Nutty Bars? Who's paying you in Big Pharma? Anyway, that's what he's doing. He's doing the Nutty Bar grift. Now,
pocket of Big Nut. You guys get John to come back, please. I'm sorry. I can't do this without him.
Not Big Nut. And especially not in its pocket. That's the worst place to be.
Ew. Okay.
Oh
sorry,
God.
chat.
Okay. Jeez. Okay. This is serious. This is a tragedy because this man did not. He's taking ivermectin. He's taking hydroxychloroquine, and yet 8 hours later, according to SpongeBob, it progressed the way one would expect if you weren't really doing anything about it. Now they tweeted, I want to thank you all for your prayers. Angela and I just completed the monoclonal antibody infusion therapy and are in the observation period. There's a concern about my oxygen saturation levels, which are at 89, and they should be at 95. My chest x-rays do show COVID pneumonia, not serious. I am probably gonna be admitted to the hospital, and apparently that has in fact happened. Really fast little note, fun note. The day before he tested positive, he was hanging out at a gala and a fundraiser, a ball like we were talking about earlier. And here's the thing, like, this is an opportunity to begin to take it seriously and say, I really should have taken the vaccine. Now you might say, well, what about the breakthrough cases? He still could have gotten it. That's true, but remember, he didn't just get it. He got it and is hospitalized over it with COVID pneumonia and oxygen issues and all that. It didn't have to be as bad. He is not going to do that. He is not going to learn from this. He's going to double down because he's a true grifter. He says, I can attest that after this experience, I am even more dedicated to fighting against vaccine mandates. Instead of enriching the pockets of big pharma and corrupt bureaucrats and politicians, we should be advocating for the monoclonal antibody infusion therapy, which, look, I'm gonna try to explain why that is the stupidest, most self-contradictory thing a person could said. Bear in mind, he's tweeting that from a hospital telling us you shouldn't get the vaccine because you should fight back against big pharma. Dude's propped up in a hospital taking $2,000 a pop antibody treatments. Whatever he's doing, it's not draining the wealth from big pharma. Now, that was pointed out by Chris Hayes. He points out that while the vaccine is free, that antibody treatment is $2,000 for each treatment. Now, Alan West can afford it. He can pay for that. Regular people, not so much. So anyway, look, he's gonna be fine. Of course he's gonna be fine. He's a right winger, he's gonna be fine. But anyway, he is needlessly spending time in a hospital. He might have long COVID as a result of this, but he comes out of it saying it's better this way because now I have natural antibodies. Sabrina, what do you think?
I just don't understand how he can use the same weak breath to say it's not that serious. Oh, but also I'm getting hospitalized. I don't understand how he can say that at the same time. And then he goes on to talk about the antibody treatment, which, like you said, it's unaffordable. It's $2,000 a pop, basically. That's not accessible to regular working class people. So for him to even just like throw that, oh, by the way, I got this treatment. It's, yeah, I hate it. And then he goes on to say, it's like, yeah, we don't want to line the pockets of big pharma. Who are you paying for that treatment? Where do you think the money goes? Who?
Jill Twist said it must have been Little Pharma that made the rejection. And by the way, ivermectin is owned by, is it Pfizer that makes ivermectin? I'm not sure, but it's one of the big ones. And anyway, again, he comes out of it saying it's better this way because now I have the antibodies. But again, that like this is your strategy for other people. Just treat it, get it and treat it. After going to the hospital, spending thousands of dollars, getting pneumonia and possibly suffering in a variety of ways for the rest of your life. This is my strategy for America rather than just getting the vaccine. His wife, as far as I can see, is not in the hospital. She's not got the pneumonia and she didn't have to pay thousands of dollars. So we've got a direct case study of the two different strategies in one family, but he's sure that it's his. And not because he's being honest. He's not being honest here. It's because he's running for governor as a crazy person. Merck, thank you. And Merck says not to use it, but I believe it is Merck that owns it. But anyway, thank you for that in the Twitch. Anyway, just really frustrating, Sabrina. Hope that he's fine. I don't wish ill on anyone, except the person who came up with Big Nut.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.